Hi, my name is Camille, and as my mother described, I'm always hungry for love. That's quite accurate, but she can't really put all the blame on me because there's a pretty huge possibility that I turned out this way due to the fact that my parents never paid much attention to me when I was younger, leading up to my teenage years. Unfortunately for me, they both lived like teenagers. Don't get me wrong though, they were still good providers. My dad was a graphic designer, my mom was a novelist. They partied hard. The parties were often held at our home, so when the clock struck 12 and I turned 18, I got out of the house and never looked back. I saved more than enough money because I had been planning to leave home since I was 14. I worked as a babysitter part-time in a fancy Italian restaurant and also made handcrafted hair accessories, which I sold to a local store. It also helped a lot that I had a rich friend who gave all her clothes to me every time she cleared her closet for the new fashion season. I sold most of the clothes except for the pieces that I liked. She didn't mind that I sold her clothes. She was relieved that she would not have to worry about where to put clothes that were out of season. So I didn't have to spend much money on clothes, shoes, accessories, and even makeup. My best friend Shia knew my situation at home and loved helping me. We went to college together and she never grew tired of helping me. I focused on earning my degree, so I rarely partied. However, just before graduation, my best friend begged me to come to a party with her. She used to invite me to freshman parties, but after turning her invitation down about 10 times, she stopped. This will be our first and last party while at college. Please come with me this time. She begged, looking as if she was about to cry. Okay, I replied. We were about to graduate anyway. I didn't have to study for a test or do homework, so I had nothing to worry about. When we arrived at the party, she squealed when she saw her longtime crush, Pump. She turned to me and said, "Hey, can you keep Pump's best friend busy? I need to have Pump all to myself. This is my last chance. It's now or never." I looked at her and thought about how most of the money I spent on college was practically from her. How could I say no? "Sure," I said and approached him. "Hi," I greeted. He turned and looked at me and we were both surprised. He looked like my male version. He smiled and introduced himself. "Hey, sweetie, you look pretty. I'm Jules." That was the beginning of everything. That night, we talked until most of the guests had left. We talked about everything. It even felt like I knew him all my life. My best friend had to drag me away so that we could go home. We went out every day after that. After a couple months, we decided to make it official. After graduation, I started working. Everything was perfect until I got pregnant. After 5 months, my belly got really big, and that was when we decided to finally introduce each other to our families. I called my mom, who was really surprised to finally hear from me. I had been sending them postcards and emails to let them know that I was alive. I said that I was coming over with my boyfriend, and she said they'd love to have us. So we booked our flight right away. I rang the doorbell, and my mom opened the door. She looked at me, my belly, and Jules, and fainted. I screamed, and Dad ran to the door. He looked at me, my belly, and Jules and said, "Oh no." Jules and I were really confused. It got even crazier when Dad asked, "Are you Jules?" Jules reluctantly answered, "Yes, sir, why?" "You're twins," Dad shouted.
Story time about how I stole a famous celebrity's boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Growing up, I loved the fashion industry and loved clothes. I knew I wanted to make that my job in the future. And just to let you guys know, I'm not the prettiest girl. I'm not anything special in terms of looks, but I'm pretty funny and I have a really great personality. When I was 16, I moved to New York to become a fashion stylist, and I quickly started gaining traction. I became an intern at a really big fashion house, and this helped me a lot. As you can imagine, I started meeting a lot of celebrities and just really important people doing this. Although I never really got to style anybody, I was still in the room when they were there for fittings and different things. After a few years, I quit that internship and went into another company. This new company, I was getting paid more and I was just happier in general, and I was able to style a bunch of people on my own. I wasn't styling any celebrities or anything like that, but just basically people that worked in the industry and people that had different events to attend. But one day this celebrity comes in. And no, he's not an A-list or anything, but he's pretty famous. He came in with his girlfriend, who at the time was also famous. I basically had to style both of them for an event, and it was really fun. But here's the thing. Clearly, he thought I was really funny, and we were making jokes back and forth. The fitting took longer than usual because we had some pieces coming in, so we had to wait for them to come in for them to try it on. But she was clearly annoyed. Obviously, waiting around for clothes is not the most fun thing, but at the same time, we were giving them champagne, we ordered them amazing food, and she was literally getting her tushy kissed. I could tell that he was really embarrassed by her behavior. At one point, he even told her just to sit down and relax, which she did eventually. I left them alone for a few minutes before the clothes arrived. Once they arrived, I came in and I gave him the pieces. She literally ripped the dress out of my hand and went into the changing room. He looked at me and apologized and said, you know, she's just in a bad mood today. And I said, I totally understand. This was my job, so I knew I couldn't react any other way, but I wanted to slap her across the face. While she was changing, he started making small talk with me. I made a few jokes and it actually made him laugh, which I was really surprised. And then he even complimented me about what I was wearing. I mean, I did look really good. Once she came out of the dressing room, she started complaining right away about the fit. It didn't surprise me whatsoever, but at the same time, I just really couldn't believe how she was acting. Then I realized that she was probably jealous because he was talking to me. He was like going out of his way to talk to me. They finally left and he said bye. But 2 days later, he comes back by himself. He wanted me to style him for an event coming up that weekend. And that's when I realized I needed to take advantage of the situation. I had the feeling he liked me, but I wasn't going to come out and say it. So I turned up the charm 1000%. We talked for about 2 hours. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I stole a famous celebrity's boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So I knew I had to make my move now or it would be never. The fact that he came in 2 days later and by himself, that let me know that he liked me. Like I said in part 1, he was there for a few hours. We totally hit it off. We even talked about each other's families and what our favorite foods were. So that's when I asked him if he wanted to have a quick dinner. Trust me, I was so nervous to ask him, but I knew I had to do it. And he said yes. We finally got to the restaurant and sat all the way in the back. I kind of got the feeling that he didn't want anyone to see us, but it made sense. That's when I asked about his famous girlfriend. Then he quickly apologized for her behavior and told me that she's never really like that, and I told him that I'm used to being treated that way by celebrities. And he said that I didn't deserve that kind of behavior from her. That's when I asked him if he was happy with her. I could tell the question caught him off guard because he didn't really know how to respond, and that's when he told me that he was happy with her, but he didn't know if the relationship would actually go anywhere. We proceeded to have a few drinks, and I could tell this was really loosening us up. Out of nowhere, I grabbed his hand and kind of massaged it, but he didn't pull it away. That just confirmed the fact that he liked me. Then he asked me for my phone number. We said goodnight and went our separate ways. But for the next week, he texted me every single day saying good morning. Of course, we would text pretty much all day long. I finally decided to tell him how I felt, which he obviously already knew, and he told me that he felt the same. Then he was the one that asked me out, and we actually went to the beach. We were at the beach for about 6 hours and we had such a great time. At the end of the beach day, I kissed him and asked him if he really wanted to be with his girlfriend. He stayed quiet and didn't answer, but the following day he messaged me and told me that he broke up with her. Here's the bad news. We only dated for 3 weeks. On the 3rd week, he actually broke up with me and told me he was dating someone else. I saw it coming. He's now dating another celebrity. The relationship isn't public yet, but I have a feeling they're gonna announce it soon. I keep texting him and asking him to take me back. I was actually falling in love with him. What should I do, you guys?
I, female 28, just found my husband, male 32, Word doc of the woman he slept with. There's more than he originally told me and women after me.
Wait, after dating or after they started talking? Because that's very different.
I was using my husband's laptop to do some work. I went to open a Word document and found one named personal. I opened it. It was a list of women. I looked at it confused, trying to figure out what this was. I thought he was keeping track of his ex's birthdays until I saw below mine and realized that this was a list of women he had slept with. We discussed sexual past and he swore multiple times I was the last woman he slept with. This is an even larger issue for me because we have had many issues in the past that have had to do with him lying.
Oh, done. No,
Done.
Divorce. I'm done.
Basically, you go in chronological order.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's names after is like...
Red flag. Run.
Yeah.
RUN.
Am I the asshole for telling the truth at my best friend's wedding during my toast? I'm a 30-year-old male and my best friend got married last week. I just bought a house and my wife is expecting our son in November, so I let him know I was limited in what I could contribute financially. But I did tell him I would try my best. So I went to the bachelor party in Miami, I rented the tux, and paid for mine and my wife's dinner at the rehearsal dinner. I also had a gift of $300 that I was going to give them, but we will get to why I didn't. His fiancée at the time would text me multiple times a day with updates. Fine. I didn't always respond, and it got to the point where if I didn't respond at least once a day, I'd get a call from my buddy. She texted me for the following reasons. 1. My wife was not allowed to talk about our pregnancy at all. She didn't want anyone to focus on that more than her, the bride. 2. She was not going to order any special food for my wife. No one asked her to. My wife was fine with whatever she was going to be served. 3. I was not helping the groom enough. He had to help her with favors, seating charts, and programs, so I had to help him with those things according to her. 4. She said if I was a true best man, I would offer to pay for the bar bill. I don't even know what that means. 5. She had to read and improve my speech before the rehearsal dinner and wanted to be included as much as my buddy. She told me to make things up if I had to. I was not allowed to include anyone but the two of them, and no inside jokes or stories about my buddy that didn't include her. 6. Her last text said to tell my wife to keep it together and not make a pregnancy scene during the wedding. Also, she wanted her to choose a dress that downplayed her pregnancy as much as possible. I was just so aggravated I spoke to my buddy to see if he could reason with her. He told me to just play ball this one time, it's her day, and to cut him a break because he'd be dealing with her nonsense for the rest of his life. The day of, all the bride and my best friend do is scold me, berate me, and bark orders. I head down to the bar for the drink. The bride's mother is there and warned me not to get drunk because I ruined her daughter's day enough. That was the final straw. I didn't give them the card with the cash, and in the speech, I used my friend's exact wording about having to deal with her nonsense for the rest of his life. I wished him the best and told him I'd always be there for him, especially during the divorce. So, am I the asshole? Yeah, you are, but good job.